this is very late. At the end of last semester I was like seriously burnt out. I was just exhausted and I didn't really take much footage of my last project, but then I was going through it before and I realized that I've definitely taken enough to talk about it and have some clips laid on top. It was a really special project to me, and yeah, it just meant a lot and I learned a lot throughout it. I think it's still worth putting this video together. I thought I would start off by reading my contextual statement and then I'd go back from the start and talk about what I did. It's a little bit long, but I think it's worth me reading it because it summarizes everything and it gives you guys context. So I named my project Kanuka. Okay. In Kanuka, Tamara Hitchens explores the profound and often unspoken transitions that occur throughout a woman's life, drawing parallels between these moments of change in relation to nature. Through her work, Hitchens isolates specific transitions unique to women, such as the loss of a partner, the separation from a relationship, and the journey of motherhood, elevating them as sacred, powerful, and transformative experiences. These moments are framed as sites of rebirth, acknowledging that transformation is not a singular event, but an ongoing, cyclical process that can occur many times across a woman's life. Hitchens utilizes photographic practices to capture and honor the stories of women close to her grandmother, mother-in-law, and best friend, each navigating distinct yet universally resonant experiences of change specific to women. This personal relationship enables the artist to weave together a collective narrative of womanhood, one that seeks to unify these individual stories in relation to the natural world. Keeping up. Drawing inspiration from Māori worldview, Hitchens reinforces this connection by acknowledging Te Ao Māori, a perspective that emphasizes intrinsic relationship between people and nature. This holistic worldview, grounded in tikanga values and mātauranga, recognizes the independence of all living things. Hitchens engages with this perspective to explore the reclamation of language and meaning through nature, to re-establish a sense of belonging and understanding that has been buried through colonization and the evolution of the English language. Historically, people articulated emotion and experience through references to nature. However, this linguistic and cultural connection has diminished through modern detachment from the natural environment. Through her work, Hitchens seeks to reawaken this bond, using the visual language of photography to remind viewers of their own inherent connection to the earth. The visual and conceptual layering in Hitchens' work is articulated through the use of double exposure, a photographic technique that merges two images into one composition. This process symbolically intertwines women's stories with nature's forms, embodying the relationship between transition, growth, and renewal. Hitchens' practice bridges traditional and contemporary photographic methods, integrating analog and digital processes to reflect the duality of the old and new. Using a 120mm film, she captures the raw essence and authenticity of her subjects, honoring their stories. The negatives are then digitally scanned, edited, and printed at high resolution, allowing her to refine the compositions while maintaining the integrity of the analog process. This transition between mediums mirrors the transitions depicted in her work, where the process itself becomes a metaphor for transformation, continuity, and adaptation. The final installation comprises 6 prints, each offering a window into a specific moment of transition. Together they unite as one work that invites the viewer to reflect on the shared and cyclical nature of change. Through this body of work, Hitchens celebrates the resilience and beauty of women's lived experiences, reaffirming the sacred connection between womanhood and the natural world. The resulting work serves as a meditative space that articulates the emergent human experience and the natural cycles of transition. Thanks for listening. So yeah, that's just like the context of my work and just sums up the final installation. That's exhausting. But yeah, so now I'm just gonna go from the start and talk about my process and how I got to each step and what happened. So I used the Hasselblad And I firstly had to figure out, because I knew I wanted to do double exposure, but I didn't know there's like multiple ways that you can approach it. And so I could either do it in camera or in the darkroom. And I decided to do it in the darkroom because I'd have a lot more control and it's just less risky that way. So yeah, so I first started off by photographing each of the special women in my life. And that was really special because I spent time with them, and as I was photographing I was just really trying to soak in their story and figure out the best way to capture their stories. I didn't want to capture their faces, like I wanted it to be somewhat anonymous so people could insert people in their lives that they know or themselves into my final installation. I wanted to capture them in their space, in their home. Yeah, it was good. It was a bit of travelling because my grandma lives in Waipu and then I had to go out to South Head. But throughout that process I was having to figure out, I needed to keep the colours dark. No, sorry, I thought I needed to have it light because I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to layer the nature photographs on top in a way that they will blend well. I didn't really consider the fact that it needed to be quite dark so that the nature photos actually layered well onto those photos. Yeah, my first lot of photos, they weren't really what I was looking for. The ones of the pregnancy ones, they ended up looking like a maternity shoot, like it was very soft and feminine, and like obviously that's beautiful, but it's not quite what I was looking for. I want it to be a bit more raw and just not so romanticized. I did 2 different shoots with her, and I made sure in the second shoot she was wearing dark clothing, so there was a lot of contrast and there was a lot of blacks to work with. So that was like a huge process in itself, you know. I have to take the photographs, develop the film, and then print them out, have a look at what they're looking, see what they're looking like. Just the whole time I felt really uncertain. It feels like I'm going in quite blind because the double exposure, it doesn't get brought together until the end. So yeah, that was a big process, and I managed to get the photos that I liked. And then the next step was I went to Lake Ototoa and I took photographs of the nature there, and there was lots of kanuka trees there, which was very fitting for my project because a lot of them they'd fallen down from the storms and they were having to regrow and reestablish themselves, and kanuka trees are really good at adapting and they're very good at dealing with transition. So yeah, I took 2 rolls down at the lake, and then the next step was going into the darkroom, layering, taking my developed film and layering different film on top of each other and seeing how they blend well. And I was doing this through the larger, and then I had to project them onto photographic paper, and that essentially prints the double exposure, and I have to develop it in the darkroom. So that in itself is a very long process. And my first print was a success, and I was so excited. Like, it worked so well, and I was like, yes, this is going to be easy, like it's going to work out really good. And then I spent the next like 2 days straight, I'm not even kidding you, like 6 hours per day just in the darkroom trying to get another successful double exposure, and it just was not working. Like, none of them were merging well. I did end up getting 3 others that were quite successful, but it was so hard. It was very depleting, and I'm very stubborn about the fact that I wanted to just use analog processes. And I soon had to realize that using digital processes is actually okay, and it doesn't, I just felt like digital processes weren't authentic to me, but I soon realized that it's actually an incredible tool for elevating analog processes. And I went onto Photoshop and I started playing around with my different photographs. They merged so well on Photoshop, and I had so much control, and I could spend a lot of time just creating different double exposure with lots of the different photographs, which was such a relief. But it was also a really huge learning curve, and I felt really defeated. Like, I felt like I had failed by moving to digital processes, but I soon realized that I actually wasn't, and it was an incredible way to elevate my film photography, because the thing is, in the darkroom, largest print I could create was like smaller than an A4, and I really wanted my prints to be large. Like, I was hoping I could scan that print and then blow it up, but I tested it and the quality was just not as good. And so using Photoshop, it really enabled me to print my photographs very large without losing the quality. But yeah, it was just like a journey to get there. I spent a long time in the darkroom really pushing and trying to get successful double exposures. But yeah, moving to Photoshop was a really big learning curve. So yeah, that's what I did. I ended up using Photoshop, and then I could move into the next step, which is printing. I ended up using the very high quality printers. I had to do some test prints first to figure out the scale, which was very helpful because I didn't want to go into it not testing it because I was spending so much money. The thing about Photoshop is I had a lot more control about, I could crop the images, I could remove the backgrounds of some of them, which was very helpful, especially in regards to the ones of my grandma, because the top she was wearing was patterned and it was just not working with me merging them together. So being able to remove that was a relief. And yeah, I was really happy with the outcome. But yeah, printing is a big process. I spent a long time doing that. I'm very, very, very grateful for the photography technician, Cornelius. He's incredible and he's so helpful. And with the printing as well, I intentionally decided to keep the white border because I wanted to mimic the prints that I was creating in the darkroom, so there was a connection back then. And then installation is another huge process. Because my prints were so big and they were on specific type of paper, I got Levi in and he helped me set up and install my work. But yeah, it was like a very, very long process, and we don't have a lot of time to do these projects, so it was exhausting. I was using like every minute of my time, but I feel like it was worth it. And by the time it got to the exhibition, I was just so out of it. I was so out of it. But it was so lovely, and so many of my friends came and they really enjoyed it and resonated with it, which was really cool. And I'm just so grateful for my grandma and my mother-in-law and my best friend for choosing to participate in it, because it is very vulnerable and I'm representing a very vulnerable part of their lives that I'm just so grateful for they're willing to participate, and they just mean so much to me. And through the process I just realized how much of an impact their stories and how they navigate stories of transition impacts me in the way that I navigate my life and my stages of transition. So it was just very, very, very special to me. And being able to spend time in nature is just always such a incredible opportunity, and reminding myself and my viewers like the people that view my work, of our connection to nature and how evident it is, and just how disconnected we are from it now, and just how so many of our issues and problems and way we navigate life is because we are so disconnected. But I feel like there's a lot of hope. Look at nature in a way that can guide us. And I kind of doubt my projects because sometimes I feel like it's such a simple cliche concept, but when I start thinking about it, I'm like, this is very real. It's something that's very important to always reiterate and remind ourselves that we are connected to nature. And I just want to say thank you so much to anyone that has been watching and supporting my little art school diary videos, because I really enjoy making them, but they do feel very vulnerable, and I really appreciate all the feedback and the lovely comments that people have said to me over the last year. And I'm really excited to capture my project this year. It's gonna be crazy. But yeah, I just feel so grateful for my time in this degree. I'm really grateful that I've been capturing it my last year this year, which is gonna be crazy. But yeah, thank you so much for everything. Everyone who's watching this, my friends, I know it's mostly my friends. Very grateful for everyone that's supporting me on my journey in this, and yeah, Okay, emotional. Anyway, love you all so much and see you in my next video.